Can a non-black person say the N-word without it being offensive? No. What if they have a disability? What if they say it involuntarily? If the intention isn't to harm, then no harm is being done. Right? No way. On February 22nd, 2026, during the BAFTA Awards ceremony, John Davidson, who has Tourette's, specifically coprolalia, which involves outbursts of inappropriate language, shouted the N-word while Michael B. Jordan and Delroy Lindo were on stage.
Good evening. Delroy and I are delighted to be presenting the first BAFTA of the night for a vital part of movie making.
That moment at the BAFTA Awards leaving viewers in shock.
This event unfortunately has put the disability community and the black community against each other when we really need to be fighting the man upstairs, but we're gonna get to that. You got some folks in the black community like Jamie Foxx saying that there's no way he didn't say it on purpose and it had to have been on purpose. You got people saying, well, even if it was involuntary, he has to be a little racist to have that word just floating around in his head, right? Because you know, if you're not racist, then you wouldn't be thinking these certain things and you know, X, Y, Z, and y'all, this shit does not work like that. It's not that simple. And y'all need to pay more attention to how these disabilities and disorders actually work, because a lot of y'all being ignorant as hell and y'all are actively causing harm. But hey, if you won't believe me, maybe you'll believe a black person who has Tourette's.
As a black woman with Tourette syndrome, I think I have valuable information to add to the discourse about the BAFTA's incident with John Davidson and Michael B. Jordan and Delroy. A lot of people are saying they understand that, you know, Tourette syndrome is involuntary and he can't control it, but he shouldn't have said that. That's conflicting. You are now saying that you don't understand what involuntary and uncontrollable means because it's you cannot control it. Now, I completely understand the complexity and duality of the situation of, you know, John Davidson having this tic, and even though it was unintentional, involuntary, it's still being harmful. Obviously, as a black woman, I get it, especially in the times that we are in, politically and just in our world today. 100% understand that the intention doesn't mean that the harm or the hurt wasn't there, which is why I feel that we should be focusing on the BAFTA's editing team.
The actual incident itself was caused by John's disability. And I'm not saying that you shouldn't be upset. I'm just saying that you need to take your frustration and put it in the right direction. Because it's not necessarily John you should be upset at, it's BBC and the BAFTA Awards. Sometime after John's outburst, the host of the award show, his name is Cummins or something, he gave a very sort of limp dick apology, saying,
"You may have heard some strong and offensive language tonight. Tourette syndrome is a disability and the tics you've heard tonight are involuntary, which means the person who has Tourette syndrome has no control over their language. We apologise if you were offended."
If you were offended? If? Why wouldn't people be offended at a racial slur, especially in these I should say, these white times? Unless you live in under a rock and you're not paying attention to the things that's happening in the world right now, it is extremely unreasonable to assume that people shouldn't be upset about a racial slur being aired online. Why did the BBC allow this to air? But they took a problem with Akinola Davies Jr.'s speech where he said Free Palestine. They cut that shit out. They cut all of it out, actually.
I acknowledge the path my ancestors, past, present, and future, have laid before me, and I'm forever grateful to live in this moment. To my family, my late father, my mighty mother, my sister, brother, niece, and nephews, thank you all for keeping the faith. And lastly, to all those whose parents migrated to obtain a better life for their children, to the economic migrant, the conflict migrant, those under occupation, dictatorship, persecution, and those experiencing genocide, you matter, your stories matter more than ever. Your dreams are an act of resistance. To those watching at home, archive your loved ones, archive your stories, yesterday, today, and forever. For Nigeria, for London, the Congo, Sudan, Free Palestine, thank you.
But the N-word is okay. Listen, I don't get tired of repeating myself, you know. These inconsistencies can be explained by one thing: white supremacy. It controls literally everything. It's why John receives empathy, as he should, as a disabled person in this instance. But it's also why black people are expected to just sort of roll over and not give a fuck about this, when it is upsetting and people are rightfully upset. It's why saying Free Palestine gets your speech cut, but the N-word doesn't. It's why so many people are just adamant that as long as the intention isn't to harm, black people have no justifiable reason for being upset. People are saying that John shouldn't even have to apologize because everybody knows that he has this disability, so why are we upset? Why are black people being so unreasonable? It's all bullshit. They expect black people to not care about what happens to us because of the brutalities that we experience on a day-to-day basis. I also want to point out that this idea that if you say the N-word without intending harm, then it kind of nullifies it. Him shouting the N-word and white frat boys in college saying it to their black friends trying to be cool and shit, that's like a straight line. Because there's this belief that as long as you intend, as long as your intentions are harmful, then you can kind of do whatever you want. But that luxury is not extended to people that are not white. Because it don't matter how young you might be, it don't matter how innocent you are. The fact that you are black, you are automatically labeled as a criminal. And guess what? Your intentions stop mattering. Because the only thing that matters is the impact. And the impact is that you black and you alive. And that is dangerous. So I don't want people to be saying that you could just kind of, oh, you know, it's all about the intention. It's all about the intention. That's not how this world works at all. And if you think that that's how this world works, then my friend, you might be a part of this squad right here. If I were to suddenly hit you in the face, right, just randomly, there could be many reasons for why that happened. But what happens if it was involuntary? I did that by accident because I was ticking. That doesn't stop the fact that I've harmed you. It doesn't stop the fact that I hit you in the face. And a common courtesy for doing things by accident is to apologize. But black people are not given that right because we are black, because we are seen as less than, as less deserving. So why should we expect an apology for such obscene language? We don't deserve that. Even though we do, because we are human. We are normal. We have the right to be upset. And again, I need to then focus the shift away from Davidson himself and towards BBC and the BAFTA awards. Because why is it that that slur was on the air for hours? For hours. But they cut out Free Palestine. They cut the shit out quick. But the N-word was okay because the people it's affecting, it don't matter. And I will repeat myself once again, this entire situation only occurred because of John's disability and involuntary action. Now, I don't have Tourette's, but I do get intrusive thoughts. And I know that I can't control this shit. I've had intrusive thoughts for my entire life, and only in the last couple of years have I really began to understand how to deal with them. And notice I didn't say stop them, I just said deal with them. Because there are disorders that make you do things that you cannot control.
I have Tourette syndrome, diagnosed over 30 years ago. As you might be able to tell, I'm also a very proud black man. I also have coprolalia, which means I sometimes tick socially unacceptable words, including the N-word. So you might imagine I have some thoughts on the BAFTA controversy. It's important to remember that it's not just a lack of a filter, it's an involuntary compulsion, whether it's vocal or body movements, and it can also include very bad intrusive thoughts. I want to be clear, I don't want to harm people with Tourette syndrome. Everyone with Tourette's is not the same. Everybody cannot do that. So don't stop asking people to do that. 2, it can be harmful to yourself if you're augmenting or trying to hold in tics. When you hold it in, it comes out worse later. It can also be painful for you. So I want us to be clear about it. So we have to make sure we're doing this and putting the anger in the right places, but also providing the empathy and care for everyone that's involved. And I believe that was dropped when it came to Michael B. Jordan, Delroy Lindo, and shout out to them. Sadly, black people have to know how to have poise in so many situations just so they can survive.
And my intrusive thoughts are gross. They're sometimes racist. They're sometimes violent. They're bad. But again, I cannot control them. And for a long time, I thought something was wrong with me personally, because I'm like, why am I doing these things? Why am I having these thoughts that are just so vile and so... But that's why they're called intrusive thoughts, because they intrude on your thinking. And to go along that line of thinking, someone with Tourette's, someone with tics, they literally cannot control that shit, B. And it's making me feel some type of way when I see people like Jamie Foxx saying that, oh, that shit was on purpose, there's no way he did that by accident. That makes me question myself too, because I'm like, okay, if Davidson saying that slur is indicative of his person, then what does that mean about my own intrusive thoughts? When y'all say these things about disabled people, about people with disorders, y'all aren't just targeting the one person, y'all are targeting everybody, and that includes black people with Tourette's as well. When we say that niggas cannot control themselves when they have certain disorders, or they cannot always control what happens in their headspace, it's true and it's real. When I and other people say that we got disabilities, that means that we get intrusive thoughts, we have tics, and we can't control the things that we say sometimes, it is not indicative of what is happening up here. It's not. And these things are well documented, B. And if you want to remain ignorant, that's okay. Just stay out of my comment section when you decide to take a shit somewhere, because I don't want to hear it. And with all that being said, I still have some criticisms for what Davidson said in his own apology. I wish that more was said directly to Michael and Delroy, because at the end of the day, they were the ones who the slur was said to directly, and they were just forgotten. And that's what happens to black people, babe. We just get forgotten all the time. When harm is done towards us, it's normal, so we have no reason to be upset. And I applaud them for saying nothing, because I would have been absolutely shocked. I would have been frozen, but I would not know of, like, the way they were able to continue on. I gotta applaud them for that, babe, because having someone shout the N-word at you is crazy. And that's exactly what happened, y'all. Both things that I'm talking about, Davidson's disability and the innate racism at this event, are occurring at the same exact time. You cannot talk about one without talking about the other, because you're gonna miss out on the whole picture. So, to answer the question of this video, was the BAFTA situation racist? Yes, with a little asterisk. Words like the N-word cannot be said without using its history behind it. The N-word is charged language, okay? It doesn't matter what intention you might have when you say it. When you say that word, you are channeling all of the racism that created it to begin with. There's no way to say it. If you ain't black, there's no way to say it without being racist, without exuding harm. Your intention does not matter. And like I said, remember that intention, that right to intention, is not given to black people. We don't have that. Our intentions never matter. They never matter. They are never spoken of. When a black person genuinely does something wrong, you ever hear them talking about their intentions? Never that. But when a white person does something, when a white person shoots up a school or does some other sort of crime, you always get a full list of their entire backstory and everything. Their full humanity is laid out and displayed. I'm not saying that Davidson is a bad person for saying the N-word in this instance, because again, it was an involuntary action, but just pay attention to how much empathy he gets and how much empathy Michael and Delroy get, which is almost none. I specifically wanted to highlight those black people that have Tourette's, because they are often forgotten from conversations like this. Earlier, I mentioned that there's a divide between the black community and the disabled community, but in reality, it's much more complicated than that, because there are a lot of disabled black people. There's no huge gap that kind of separates us, because we're all together in society. And overall, I'd say with situations like this, slow down and really just think about it, because your immediate reaction might be wrong. And I'm not saying that you're stupid. I'm just saying that society has a way of pointing you in a certain direction and furthering its own goals. A lot of people that aren't black are saying that black people aren't being empathetic enough. We're not thinking about Davidson's disability. And people also aren't thinking about how this affects black people and how tired we are of constantly having to hear this word and constantly being told that we are actually delusional people. We are being gaslit 24/7 about the harm that we experience. But that's all I got for this one. I really wanted to talk about this because I was talking to a friend about it literally last night, and I was like, you know what, actually, I'm gonna make a video about this. I've never made a video so far in my life. I hope it doesn't show. But that's all I got for y'all. I'll see y'all in the next one. Peace and prosperity. Ciao.